WEA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
All right, almost 5 minutes after 10 o'clock. Nice looking Friday. By the way, the Life South Bloodmobile is out there, and if you have a chance, go donate some blood. You'll save some lives. And they got lots of giveaways they're doing today. Just a little plug for them. And you know what? It kind of goes hand in hand with what Lisa's topic is today on Ocala Magazine Radio. Lisa McGinnes is here, and she is the editorial coordinator for Ocala Magazine, and she has invited Loren Delorio, and we know Loren from a few things that we've been part of. And,
that's right.
And I honestly don't know what you do, but we're going to find out. But we're going to find out.
We're going to find out.
Well, good morning, ladies, first of all. Good morning, Lisa. Good morning, Loren. One of the things that we've said is that we have the privilege of getting to know great people in our community that do great things for other people. And that's exactly what you're going to talk about today, isn't it, Lisa?
It absolutely is what we're going to talk about today.
So you've hooked up with Loren to tell, and Loren, that's what you do, right? You kind of connect all the dots with all the agencies, right?
Do. Absolutely.
Wow. See, I didn't even know that.
Well, it's actually through our organization, which is the Community Foundation for Ocala Marion, and we happen to house a program called the Nonprofit Business Council. And that's open to any nonprofits in the area to come in and become a part of the council. There's a lot of professional development, which we're finding is needed for a lot of our nonprofits, but it also offers the opportunity of networking amongst nonprofits.
Networking is so important. And you know, Robin and I have been involved in different things because of this, because we do this radio show. People will say to us, can you help us out with our fundraiser? So we have to say yes well, we don't have to say yes, but we do say yes unless we have one already. It's kind of the way it is. If you get to us first, we're probably going to do it for you. And then when that campaign is done, then we don't tell anybody. And then when the next one comes along, we grab it. So right now we're working with Champions for Champions. So
yes. Oh, Maria Roman.
So yes. Maria and
she's one of our nonprofit members.
That's wonderful. Nice to know.
That's great.
And I think from the person's perspective of the ones who want to help, we want to know if it's legit. And of course, with Maria, we know it's legit. So.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And is that part of what you do?
That's part of what we do.
To help get the word out?
We want to educate the nonprofits and their boards, especially, not everybody can be a big nonprofit like Hospice or United Way. We have a lot of small ones around. As a matter of fact, I think the last report I saw, we have about 1,500 in Marion County. But a lot of them are religious-based, or they may be very small.
Right.
Some are volunteer-based. And we want to make sure that every nonprofit has access to professional development for their staff and their board. So we offer topics every month that are relative to what they're dealing with, whether it's management, board policies, financial information they need to know, the new tax law changes, how is that going to affect the nonprofits. So we provide professional development. Once they're a member, they can bring any number of staff, board members along to hear what the message is for that month. And we also provide them an opportunity to network with other nonprofits, meaning that why reinvent the wheel? Let's say if a nonprofit is looking for board policies, we have many nonprofits sitting around the table that have already kind of been through
that. Really? So they can tell you what mistakes to avoid?
Well, to avoid, but also they can share the documents so that the new nonprofit might be able to tweak it.
Have somewhere to start.
Right, exactly.
Have something to start with.
I have a question about deciding to be a nonprofit in the first place. What is the reason? What is the benefit of being a nonprofit as opposed to just making a profit and then supporting somebody, like just giving your money away? Why? What is the difference or the benefit?
Well, I'm going to give you the textbook version. We also run a program out of the Nonprofit Business Council called Youth Philanthropy in Action, where the council goes into middle schools to teach those students what philanthropy means. And the hope is most of those students, as they enter high school, are approaching that time where they have to gain community service hours for bright futures. If they reach the highest level, then their tuition is free with the state right now, currently. So
that's awesome.
Right. So they're going out and trying to accumulate hours, but they're not giving a whole lot of thought to it. So this program is actually in the middle school. We're trying to teach them to think about who they're giving back to and why they might want to help this organization. Hopefully they'll come back. But in that program, there's a section that actually talks about the differences between for-profit, nonprofit, government, and the family sector. So nonprofits, typically, they raise funding to go back into programs that benefit the community. If you're a for-profit entity, you're going to do just that. You're going to make a profit. And most of the time, some of the profit stays in-house to continue the building process, and some goes back into those investors that have actually invested in that for-profit. And of course, we know about the government.
Right.
Well,
Go ahead, Brian.
some nonprofits, though, were told that for every dollar they collect, 90% goes to administration and 10% only goes to the people they help. How do we know to weed those out?
That's a very
that's a
good,
good one.
very good topic that comes up. And I think usually around Christmas time we see that big sheet out on social media that talks about those agencies
really?
that are
Yeah.
heavily funding their administrative cost. Typically, nonprofits have a 80-20 rule, so that only 20% really should go back into administrative overhead, and 80% gets pumped back in the programs. You know, nonprofits are a business, and so that's something that I encourage a lot of donors to think about. You know, yes, we know that there's nonprofits out there that kind of abuse that whole rule, but you also have to understand that nonprofits have to run this as a business, so they're going to have to pay for rent, salary, things to keep the lights on. So if you're a donor that is really investing or trying to look into a nonprofit, we always encourage our donors to go through GuideStar or Charity Navigator. You can go in and actually research the nonprofit, and it provides you with information on the 990s, their mission, their purpose. It gives you lots of information that you can then kind of make your own informed decision.
So Lisa, is the Ocala magazine focusing on the nonprofits in the new issue?
Well, you know that when I came on board, one of the things that was important to me was to bring back the charity register, and that's how Loren and I connected. We are partnering with to put together the charity register that Ocala magazine will be publishing this fall.
That's nice.
So
that's real
Loren
nice.
and I connected. Of course, the Nonprofit Business Council works with all of the nonprofits in Marion County, so they already are in contact with those folks. So right now we are working together to get the word out to all of the nonprofits that we are collecting this information to be published in the fall. So that's what we're in the process of doing right now.
And that'll give, again, that's going to serve the rest of us to help out. Just one thing, I don't know about other for-profit businesses, but radio is obviously a for-profit business. And our inventory is airtime, obviously. And a good, probably 50% or more is given away philanthropically. And so while we're for-profit, we obviously support the nonprofits all the time. Is there a difference between nonprofit and not-for-profit? What is...
Yeah, that's confusing.
That's an interchangeable
is it?
word.
So, and the 501, what is that number they always say?
501c3.
Yeah, what is that?
501c3. So that's a distinction with the IRS, and that is for the tax-exempt status with the IRS. There are varying numbers of 501cs. For example, if you take somebody like hospice, they are a registered 501c3. They are an entity that raises funding for the programming to benefit the community. Let's take the CEP. The CEP is still considered a 501c, but they're considered a 501c6, I believe. They're a membership organization which raises funding to be placed back into membership. So does that mean it's, they're still a 501c, but they're not collecting any profit off of it. They're taking those monies raised and they push them into their programs that benefit their membership.
So when somebody is, and we have this all the time, people will do a public service announcement,
right?
And we won't charge them for it, and they will say at the end of it, we're a nonprofit 501c3. They always add that in there, and so they're the only ones who have to say that. Everybody else can.
Well, if they don't necessarily.
Because I'm a 1040. I know that.
Yeah, you're 1040.
I'm a 1040. Larry Whitler, 1040.
There you go. We got you. So yeah, now the one thing that we found that with some of our nonprofits in the area that didn't really have an understanding of, the state of Florida actually requires every nonprofit that is soliciting for donations to register with the Department of Agriculture under the Solicitations and
That's a
Contributions
good
Act.
law. I like that law.
Yeah. So what that does is the nonprofit has to register to show what they're doing to raise those funds. If they're actively going out through mail solicitation, phone calls, or face-to-face, if they've hired a professional solicitor to go out and actually solicit for them, then they have to comply with this registry. And it's based upon the amount of annual revenue you estimate taking in, and you renew it on a varying basis. But many of our nonprofits don't understand that they're supposed to be carrying and registering with the state for that. And there's a specific disclaimer that has to go at the bottom of all of their fundraising pieces that are going out for solicitation.
Oh, okay.
And it's mandated by the state. What this does is if someone were to be solicited by a nonprofit and they contact the Department of Agriculture and they don't have that, the nonprofit could be fined up to $5,000 per incident.
Oh man.
Right.
They better do it.
So part of this charity register process that was great is we ask the nonprofits, do you have this designation? Because we want to make sure that we can help these nonprofits if they don't understand.
Okay,
that they need to do
so
this.
if all the dots, what do they say, I's are dotted, and if everything isn't done right, you guys will help them.
That's what the council does.
Okay,
And that's
okay.
the commitment through this process with the Community Foundation, is to make sure that this program is done so that it helps and benefits our nonprofits.
Do you get questions like that, Lisa, at Ocala Magazine when your people are out there gathering the ads for the magazine? Sometimes you do have public service.
Well,
announcements.
of course, the magazine is a business. We're supported by
They're
advertisers.
for profit.
But just like Larry said, we certainly do sponsor charity
You have your
events.
share, yeah.
We partner with nonprofits, to run ads in the magazine for free for them, just like you do. So yeah, from
Yeah.
time to time we do partner with charities. But the things that they're doing at the Nonprofit Business Council, I think, are helping both the charities to understand how to do their job better and benefiting the donors by giving them an extra layer of security with the local nonprofits to make sure everybody is doing it right. So that's why with the charity register, we feel at Ocala Magazine like partnering with the Nonprofit Business Council and the Community Foundation gives us even more credibility and gives our readers an added layer of confidence that this information we're providing to them is all absolutely correct, and that these are legitimate charities in Marion County. They've been vetted. That we know that they are charities that are worth our readers giving their time and their donations to.
And you also do coverage. I mean, you'll send your photographers out. They will actually be there photographing at the charity events, and then you'll run it in your next month's magazine. And that way, that keeps people more aware of what charities are out there in case they want to volunteer their time or give their money.
And that's what everyone loves in the magazine are the social pages. They love to flip to
Yeah,
limelight.
yeah.
And we talked about that. They love to
Yeah.
see themselves in the magazine. And we try to keep those events mostly charity events. If there's a charity event that
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
aware of, we will absolutely
Well,
try to be there.
And I think that brings public awareness, right? When there's a signature event, I can't think of one off the top of my head. The chili cook-off, that's a good one, right? But if it's a charity event and everybody warms up to it, then I guess it becomes synonymous with that event.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Right, absolutely.
And that's one of the other
I mean,
things.
with that organization. so
Yeah, we know what you
meant to say, yeah.
Well, that's one of the other cool things. So right now we are in the process of collecting all of this information from all of the different nonprofits. One of the things that we're asking for is information about their signature events so that the Community Foundation can try to put together kind of a master calendar so we don't schedule, so they don't
Oh,
end up
okay.
scheduling.
Yes. This is a great
Yes.
idea. Oh my gosh, yes. A great example is Habitat for Humanity. Who doesn't love them? They have this amazing strawberry festival, right? But there were a couple of other things happening that same day. And we tried our best to get to there was 3 of them, I think, that day.
There were 3 of them
Yeah.
that day.
So that's good. But there's only 52 weekends in the year, though, right?
That's one of the so that's one of the things we're trying to do with the information that we're collecting right now. And if it's okay, I'd like Loren to go ahead and give the dates. We have, I think, 2 more sessions coming up where any nonprofit in Marion County can come and get the information, get their questions answered, and make sure that they are a part of the charity register.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
can I ask you to?
Sure thing. So we've already had 3 of these informational meetings, and we're scheduling the last 2. The next one is scheduled for Wednesday, May the 30th at noon at the power plant. And then the very last one will be scheduled for Tuesday, June 5th at the power plant at noon. So we're encouraging and we're trying to get the word out to everyone that we don't want to miss anyone. We want people to come. And the reason why we're asking them to come to these informational meetings, and some of the nonprofits are like, well, why can't you just send me the information? Well, the packet's about 4 pages long, and some of the information that's in there, like the solicitation for contributions, is probably going to be one of those that's going to stump some of the individuals. So it's much better for them to come to a meeting. We walk through the packet together. Are there any questions? And then I can then reiterate the deadline that we've set with Ocala Magazine that these applications have to be turned in. And unfortunately, we had a lot of discussion about this, but we have to set a hard deadline, and that deadline is Monday, July the 2nd.
Oh, okay.
And
okay.
the reasoning
That's
for
good to
that
know.
is, even though the publication is in the fall, we want to give Ocala Magazine enough time to kind of get the information. It's going to be probably a lot to lay out, and we want it to be, ready for them to go. On the back end of that, it's also going to give us an opportunity to work with Ocala Magazine on maybe some content articles that are going to be relevant to when the publication comes out. And it'll be things like year-end planned giving. We'll be able to give maybe a brief page overview of by the numbers with some of the information that was collected from all these nonprofits. And then we have an article that we're looking to have written from a corporate standpoint, because a lot of times these nonprofits will fill out information like, oh, I want to get a sponsorship, and they just send it off, and they don't have a good understanding what some of these big corporations, how they've set their culture and their community impact. So they may have applied for a sponsorship, but it doesn't match up with what that corporation actually supports. So we're gonna somebody. I think we've got.
And that's pretty important, yeah.
Absolutely. So we're looking at having a bigger corporation actually write that article.
And through Lisa and Ocala Magazine, you've been doing an excellent job getting the word out. I received that press release.
Oh, good.
About the last 2 dates. We put it on the Facebook page and everything.
Super.
So
Good.
your partnership with Lisa and Ocala Magazine
Right.
is phenomenal.
Right.
Lisa's always on top of things.
We were just talking earlier about the fact that I've been trying to reach out to a lot of the community leaders and the kind of movers and shakers in Ocala as well, because a lot of people said, well, why would you do that and tell people about that? And I said, well, because if you were to be in a room with some of those people and said, how many of you are actually on the board of the nonprofits, I guarantee you everybody's going to raise their hand that they're supporting or sitting on a board of a nonprofit. And we want them to go back to that nonprofit leadership and say, hey, have we already sent somebody to the charity register meeting? Do we know, has somebody been able to gather that information? Because we don't want to leave anybody out. We really don't.
Yeah, right now, we want to make sure that we have tried as hard as we can to make sure every single nonprofit in Marion County knows that this is available to them.
Absolutely, yeah.
And one of the cool things about the charity register is whether the nonprofit is huge or whether it's tiny, it gives all of them the same opportunity to have their information listed in the same way, like they all get the same chance,
Yeah. And probably everybody has websites, I'm guessing. So that'll be in there as well?
So, yes, most of them should, but some of the smaller ones may not.
They may not, okay.
Right.
Okay.
So this is good for them to actually see what other organizations are doing, and maybe it'll kind of inspire them.
Just
to-
get a little cheapy or something, like a Wix one or something.
Are churches and private schools like Cornerstone's private school, are they considered nonprofit?
They are, but they're the educational and, of course, the religious side of it. And, religious churches are exempt from actually having to file any type of tax return.
I wondered about that, yeah.
Yeah. So, and like a nonprofit, like, let's say, Public Education Foundation, they file a 990 every year. They don't necessarily pay tax, but they actually have to provide the IRS the information to show that they're staying on mission. This is where the revenue came from. They're following their policies, and then the IRS just kind of looks at, yep, okay, we're good. So, but churches are exempt from filing, religious entities. The same thing with the solicitations and contributions number. There are certain exemptions for that, and that would be in the case of education, so schools and churches are usually exempt from actually having to have that number. But we want to make sure that we've covered our bases because there's a lot of nonprofits out there that still need it.
So, Robin, in regards to the public schools, twice a year, Ocala magazine does publish the private school guide. So
This is excellent.
Oh, nice.
that's something that we kind of did separately, and that allows the parents to focus on, the private school options that
Yeah,
are there.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then with the charity register, we kind of want to make sure we can focus on the nonprofit organizations that are in need of volunteers and that are in need of donations,
Right.
and kind of draw attention to those programs that need the help.
I think that if you're a church that has a bigger outreach program, and there are a few, that's certainly a true nonprofit nature. If they are doing similar to what maybe, I'm just going to make this up, let's say they're doing something similar to Interfaith, where they've got a soup kitchen or something and they're providing that service, then certainly that's something that we want to make sure that the public knows about. But just a standard church that's taking collections, it's probably not something that needs to be in this particular spot. It could probably be placed in maybe something else, maybe to collaborate with Ocala magazine.
The skill of a public relations professional is so important to everything, whether it's a for-profit or a not-for-profit. I think the for-profits get it. I think the not-for-profits sometimes don't get it as clearly. And I just have this to say. Radio used to have this rule from the FCC that we had to do public service announcements. When Ronald Reagan became president, he deregulated that, so we no longer have to do that. There's not one station in this area that doesn't do public. So even though we don't have to, we all do. And do you know 99% of the people in our community, according to something we just saw recently, listen to radio? Not this one and not that one, but all of them combined. So if you combine Ocala magazine with, if you just made the rounds and did a little visit with each station and gave some kind of a 30-second piece or something, and they would run it around, everybody would know about your not-for-profit. And I think that's important because every once in a while somebody will come to us and literally with tears in their eyes asking if we can help them because they're going to go away if we don't help. And it's like, oh my gosh, yes, just get the word out, just spread the word. So that's why I'm saying it, because I think what you're doing is serving that need.
Yeah, well, we have had programming in the past for the council, and that was a big discussion is, the various aspects of running that business. Marketing and PR is a big piece of what nonprofits have to do. And some of them are very uncomfortable, or they don't understand that, they have to follow certain guidelines and rules in order to make those communication plans.
Yes.
So that is definitely a topic that we bring to the council, and hopefully a lot of those nonprofits are learning the correct way to do things.
Yeah.
Timing.
And
You
timing is
can't wait till
everything.
the day before.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I had a donor that came in. Last month we had, actually it's still May, so I guess this month we had Devin Chestnut from
Oh,
Cox
yes,
Communication come in to speak to the nonprofits in regards to that kind of corporate culture of giving. And the house was packed. I mean, we meet at the power plant, and I was begging and stealing chairs, but that's great because there was a lot of interest. But the idea that she said is you can't contact us a week before your event and
yes.
expect that we're going to sponsor.
Oh my gosh, that is a great one.
So And I mean, people were furiously writing down
my
the
gosh,
notes.
that
but
is a
it's
good one.
so true. And whether it's sponsorships or just overall awareness of the event, you've got to have a plan.
Oh gosh, can I tell you another one that I see all the time, and I hope everybody who is African American hears this message. Don't think that we don't want to include you. They asked Robin and I to talk at the Star Banner. This was years ago. It was an African American group. They want to know, how do we get the word out, and they invited Robin and me to talk about it. And I said, here's the simple thing: go into the newspaper and shake their hand. Go into Ocala magazine, shake their hand. Come into the radio, shake our hand. Say, hey, this is what we're doing. Can you help us? And like you say, don't do it when the thing is
Right.
tomorrow. Don't tell us yesterday. You know.
Don't send me an email at the magazine for something that's
Yes.
happening next week.
Don't text. Don't email, because they get low comments. Let us get to know you, because chances are 98% of the people are not coming in. But 100% of them are emailing us, so we
Right.
get swamped, right? You get
Right.
the same thing?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me, the simple things, like so many of our nonprofits don't know how to create a press release
Exactly.
Yes.
and appropriately send it
Oh
out.
my gosh,
with
you're
the
singing our
announcement.
song today. Yeah.
Yes. So these are the types of things that the council has been doing, and I just came on board with the Community Foundation in at the end of January, and
We've known you for a long time,
you
though.
have, because I was with the Public Education
That's
Foundation
right,
for a while.
that's right,
But
yeah, yeah.
I'm really excited because the change in focus with the Community Foundation here is really going to take off and really serve this community in a bigger way, and we're really excited.
Can I squeeze in a phone call, ladies? If you're
Of
okay.
course.
I don't know, Loren, if you want to put a headset on. You got beautiful hair. So
I don't mind.
So do you, Lisa. You got beautiful hair.
I'll mess up my hair.
But I know ladies sometimes don't like headphones.
Oh, I got
can
it.
you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Hey.
I got the time, or the date, I should say, but I didn't get the time and place for this next meeting on the 30th. Where is it and what time?
Yeah, good point. Yeah, let's repeat all that. Yes. Thank you.
So this meeting next week, Wednesday, May 30th, 12 noon, and we'll be downtown at the power plant building, which is next to the CEP.
Right. It's 405 Southeast Osceola Avenue.
Right. And if you don't know, the power plant is not the electric company.
Right.
It's just what they call this
Right.
building.
Right.
Who named it that anyway?
I don't know.
Got to come up with a better name.
know.
Everybody gets confused. At the power plant, they're all going down to Seco or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, that was a great question, because those things need to be repeated. Hey, that's a reminder to us to do our job. Loren, good to see you. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Really good information, and you're teaming up with the best. Lisa
I think
McGinnes,
so.
Ocala Magazine, thank you
Fabulous.
for what you
Thank
do.
you, as
You
always.
make this community so much better, and just getting the word out about these great things with images. You know, this is our way of doing images with the little camera. It's nice, though. You look good on there. Yeah. Lisa and Loren, thank you both.
you so much.
We're up against a break. I got to push a button here. This is The Source, WOCA Ocala.
Get it for less at the DIY Home Center outlet. Get top quality real wood cabinets the same or less than the big box stores are selling the cheap stuff. And that's not all. Drywall screws big box stores are $6.47 a pound. At DIY, only $4.99. Plus, DIY has the largest selection of mobile home parts and accessories anywhere. From carpet to doors, get the DIY supplies you need for less. The DIY Home Center outlet. We are your building material closeout store. 2191 Northwest 10th Street, just 2 miles east of I-75.
The very best in quality is Captain T's Upholstery.
Is that couch cushion sinking lower every time you sit in it? Does your boat look better with the cover on? Has your car's interior seen its better days? Stop using a towel to cover up those rips in the golf cart. Isn't it about time you had it restored to better than new with a custom upholstery from